And I teach ASL English interpreting here at the Mount, and I've met almost everybody, so maybe afterwards we can make introductions and get to know you and where. I'm not sure what everybody teaches. So I'm here to talk about first generation college students, and I thank you for coming and supporting me with this. I'm excited about this topic. So before we get started, I want to make sure that we all understood the definition of first generation college student and the fact that there is no standard definition. I read numerous articles on first generation, and everybody defines it a little differently. Some people say that some articles said that they're undergraduates whose parents never enrolled in post-secondary education. Others said a student whose parents or legal guardians have not completed a bachelor's degree at a four-year college. So they're specific to bachelor's level. And then the third one I found was a student whose parents have not attained a college degree, and they're not specific as to whether that's an associate level or a bachelor level. So when we have numbers from here, I got interested in this when Dr. Foley gave his presentation at the beginning of the year, and he said the average first generation college student ratio in colleges across Pennsylvania, they have about 30%. And in Mount Aloysius, it's closer to 60%. So we have double of what other people have. I'm not sure which definition they're using, but as you can understand, these are students who are coming in with a little bit of a different experience than others. So I chose this topic because I used to teach at Bloomsburg University, and when I left there and I came here, I was surprised at how different it was and how different the students were, and it threw me for teaching. I just really expected to collect all of my teaching supplies and bring them here and do the same thing again, and it didn't work. And it was frustrating for me, and it was frustrating for the students, and the students weren't doing very well. And I knew that the students were smart. It had nothing to do with their intelligence level. It had something to do with something that was missing. And it took me a long time to figure out what was missing and how I could help them bridge that gap. Plus, I hear a lot of faculty complaints. I carpooled with an adjunct faculty for a semester, and I think that's what really made me very interested in this topic, because he came from Penn State in a PhD program, and the whole way down and the whole way back he would complain about these Mount Aloysius students and how unprepared they were to achieve at his standards. And I said, well, can you make your standards the same but present them in a different way? Have you considered what your responsibility to these students are? And the more he dug his toes in, the more I became very eager to make the change and be successful at this job. So I really want to understand the students, and I feel for the students because I can see how frustrated they are. I can see where they really put forth an effort and it's completely wrong. And I have to step back and think, how can I make it so that the next time it is right? Because it's not for lack of trying, it's just that they're missing something, right? So, and I love that little cartoon. So the next one. So I read, like I said, several articles related to first generation college students, and most of them were repeating the deficits that these students are bringing to the table, right? So most first generations come a little anxious, right? They're not sure whether they're cut out to be a college student. All of my kids know that they will go to college because I teach college, I've been to college, that's how you succeed, you go to college, so that's what you do. And they just have it set in their mind, plus they understand what it means to go to college. These students come from a family where nobody's talking about college. They're not talking about it at the dinner table. It's not on the board for them, so they're a little anxious about how it all works. Plus, they tend to have more responsibilities than the students who have parents who've been to college, because they often have to have a full-time job. They often have to go home and help their families for the weekend. I've heard several, I mean, the first semester I had more excuses of why students weren't in class until I finally said, I don't really need to hear all of the reasons why you're not here, but they were difficult to hear. Students saying, I'm the only person in my family who has a driver's license and my grandma has to go to the doctor's office. Or I'm the only person who can watch my sister's daughter because she has issues and they need me there. You know, they have all of these family ties. They have this great sense of responsibility to their family. They have more pride than I had expected, I guess, when I started reading about this. But they do feel very proud. They want to make it through. They want to be the first in their family to get this degree. And they come with a lot of guilt. And this has come up in classes and in discussions with students that they don't know if they're at the right place because their families are often struggling at home. And institutional advancement gave me a statistic that here at the Mount, 40% of all students who are enrolled at the Mount come from a family income of $35,000 or less. So these are families who are struggling, whether their kid is in college or not, but these kids have some guilt about being here and having some downtime and having some enjoyment during the day when they know that their families are at work paying for this for them or helping them in any way possible. A lot of first generations are embarrassed about what they don't know and where they have come from, especially if they're sitting around kids whose parents have gone to college or have successful lives at home, successful careers. So you'll hear some students say, yeah, my parents went to college, but when you ask them further questions, they may have gone to maybe a beauty school or a VOTEC program. So they may know the difference, but they don't want to let anybody know what their family life is really like. So this is a common feeling. And I think the largest is sheer confusion about how college works in general. So they don't often understand what professors mean. I'm always happy when a student raises their hand, and if I'm in the middle of a lecture and they raise their hand and they say, what's an adjunct? Or what is, a word that they're unfamiliar with, that really they have to understand the whole message. And I don't know everything that they don't know yet. So backing up, and I'd like to open the classroom up and make them feel as comfortable as possible so that they can ask these questions. Oftentimes they thought that they did the paperwork that was being requested, but it wasn't the right paperwork. And when I first got here, I just thought, they're so disorganized. And I don't think that the students are disorganized. I think that they really don't know how it all works. They haven't had this experience yet, and they're coming with such deficits for the college experience that most professors are expecting of students. Myself, I should only speak for myself, but the next one, honey. So what I really liked is I read an article about attributes that first generations bring, because the author of this article said that she was very tired of hearing all of the deficits that these students bring, and wouldn't it be nice to consider them as a whole person and notice what they are bringing that can help get them through. So when we're considering how to navigate these students through the system, let's find what they are good at. So a lot of these students in general are proactive. They're resourceful, self-reliant, and strategic thinkers. These are students who are finding work on the side so that they can pay for their education. I've talked to some students who aren't first generation. They're like, no, I can't really find a job. But if you talk to a first generation college student, they generally have a job on the side and they know how to find the way to get to the money. They're goal directed. They may say something like, I know that I will only get a job if I have a college degree. I see how my family has been living and I want to do a little better, and I know this is where I have to be. They're generally optimistic, which is great and can be very frustrating from my perspective when I have a student who gets maybe a C- and they're like, oh, okay. And I go, no, not okay. Your goal is the A. And they, maybe next time I'll get the A. You know, they're optimistic. They're thinking, next time I'm going to do better than this, right? They don't, the positive of this is that they're not crushed by the failures that they have and will continue to have through their lives. So this is something that is great about the students, and they're reflexive, they're insightful, compassionate, and genuinely grateful for what they get. These are not necessarily the students who are expecting more than what they need, right? They tend to be a little bit more grateful, according to this. So, how can we help? Oh, you can click on that link. So Mount Aloysius does offer a lot of help for first-generation college students, and so they have all these programs who support the first-generation college students, which is very nice. And this is more than a lot of other colleges offer to this group. So if you click the X, right here. Yep. But as far as faculty are concerned, we can assist students in identifying their assets that I had just listed there, letting them know that they didn't just come with deficits, you know, that they are like really hardy stock when you consider students, and that they can handle a lot more than some other students. And we want to work with and appreciate these students' assets, not just looking at the deficits, but making sure that we consider what they are bringing to the table and how we can work with that. We want to be cognizant of the students' liabilities, you know, definitely what might bring them down in the end, and we want to teach students how to navigate the education system and give them some cultural capital. If you can consider those who have parents who've been to college, they come with some cultural capital. They understand how this all works. And I did a little experiment this weekend when I was with family members, and I have two nephews who are in college. And the one nephew, his mother went to college, and the other nephew, his mother did not go to college. So I was speaking more directly to the student whose parents didn't go to college, and I purposefully used all the college terms that I could muster, right? So how's your semester going? What's your GPA? What's your CUME? What's your credit load this semester? You know, how many faculty are you working with? Now, is only one faculty per class, or do you have TAs? You know, I'm asking all of these questions, and I'm watching to see the dynamic in the room, just to see how everybody, and what his mom chimed in to say was, his campus is so beautiful. You should really see it. The buildings are really, it's so modern. His campus is really, really nice. And you just feel comfortable when you go there. So first generation college students don't have somebody talking to them who know how to navigate the system. They have parents who say, you know, they come home from break and their parents are like, how's college? You know, and the kids whose parents have been through college are like, how was your semester? What was your GPA? How did you do on that math final? You know, they ask all of the very specific questions. So they're coming to the table with a little bit more information. Not that the parents who haven't gone to college aren't trying, they just don't have all of the assistance that the others do. So, being able to teach cultural capital is something that I think we need to consider if we're going to be working with 60% first-generation college students. And that means that we need to start being more explicit about our expectations. And not just generally, but you know, specifically, what is the workload that we are expecting? What are the priorities in a particular class? If you're teaching several classes, are you really expecting them to do very well in one and the other one they can sort of relax in? Students want to know, I've had students complain, I didn't know that I would need to spend so much time on this class. Other classes don't require this amount of time. So I've had people recommend saying how many hours per week I expect students to focus on this particular class. I haven't done that yet, but I know that not this nursing program, but another nursing program has the hours that they require of students for particular classes. So students will know if it's a 10-hour-a-week class or a 20-hour-a-week class and how much effort they're going to have to put into that. Being explicit about the expectations and assignments and expectations related to communication and problem solving. So I have found, since I've been here, that I say things like, sit up, look at me when I'm talking to you, because that means that you are engaged with what I am saying. When you lay your head on the desk, it makes me feel like you are either ill, or you're really, really tired, or you're bored, or you don't understand this information, and I'm having a hard time filtering that. So can you sit up and communicate to me what is going on with you? Which I would have never done at Bloomsburg University, but it has been rather well received by students here when I say things like, I mean, some of the things that I've had to be very, very explicit about. Don't pick your nose, because nobody will hire you. This is a professional expectation, right? So you need to get some tissues and put them in your bag and not do that. And that's not necessarily first generation, but that is what some of the things that I've encountered here. Students, when I say, pull your shirt down, I don't really want to see all the skin because you just went like this and now you have all of this showing, and I don't want to see that. You don't want to see it on me either. So pull your shirt, some things that are very, very specific to students or explicit in general. I will start class with, it's cold and flu season. Please continue to wash your hands. Don't sneeze on your paper and hand it to me. Certain things that I would think that everybody might know prior to coming to college that not necessarily, right?
I just had someone in class chewing and spitting tobacco.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I had to address that.
Right.
It was amazing.
Right, and you take a breath and you go, okay, yeah, they don't know. A student, I talked to one of my friends from Bloomsburg who teaches communication. She walked in and everybody's like this, and she freaks out, and I said, they don't know. They don't know that you're expecting them to put it down. Just tell them. Put your phone away. Now is the time that you put your phone away, because if you're on your phone, it looks like you're not interested in what I have to say. We don't have to get upset about it. We just sort of have to slow down and walk them through some of these processes. Did you have a comment? So did you tell him?
Oh yeah.
He tried to tell that same student.
Oh.
Because when I said, you can't be chewing tobacco, he said, I could do it before. Nobody ever told me that.
He tried to tell me it was gum, and I said, well, you're not allowed to chew anything in this class, and I don't believe you.
This one was water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
By the same student.
Right. So and not just you can't do this, but why? How this will impact you for the rest of your life. If you raise your arm like this to scratch your shoulder and all of your skin is hanging out, people avert their gaze because it's not appropriate. And you don't want people looking away from you because you're being inappropriate, because then they're not going to take you seriously as a professional and you're not going to get the job that you want with your college degree. So these are some very basic skills, but also communication and problem solving. If you don't understand something, please come and talk to me. If I don't understand something, I'm going to come and talk to you. So when I have found when I get really specific with them, they're less concerned about getting specific with me. When they really don't understand something, they seem less intimidated in coming and talking to me about some issues in class. And I think it's really important to create some social integration requirements within coursework. So getting these students to work with students who aren't within their particular group, right? So mixing it up so everybody gets to work together, because remember, they are bringing specific skills to college that aren't necessarily held by students who have come from families, long lines of college graduates. And it's important to be aware of the personal and family relationship complications that come with cultural capital. So when I had this conversation with my nephew, his mom chimed in a couple times, and then she left. She got up and she walked away because she realized that he is to a place where she will not be. And so when students learn how college works and start integrating with this group or this society, there's oftentimes some jealousy by the family, or they feel like they're pulling away and going to a place that they'll never come back to. So students, going back to that guilt, They want to be involved here, they want to succeed, but not at the expense of losing their family or making their family feel like outcasts, right? So I remember when I went to grad school and I came home for Easter or something, and somebody said, "Do you want something to drink?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll take a soda." And my brother goes, "Ooh, soda, big city girl now. You don't drink pop anymore?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll have a pop," you know. But small little pieces that make people who haven't gone to college, makes them feel like they're separating slowly. And that's something that we have to consider that these students go through, right? So as we're pushing them toward this, we can't forget how that's going to impact their personal lives. So I have asked a lot of students. I hold up the syllabus. Here's the syllabus. What is this? And some comments I've gotten are, it's the course calendar, right? Oh, that's what we're supposed to do. It's the rules of the class, or it's the requirements of the class, right? These are the comments that I've gotten from students. And no student became really excited when they talked about the syllabus, and the more I'm reading and looking into getting these students on board and excited and successfully pathed through our system, I think we're missing a really good opportunity to excite them and inform them with this one document. And one thing I hadn't considered, and at the end, if we have time, I'll show you one of my syllabi and all of the errors that I've made, but course requirements are stated in the syllabus, and I have done that, but the first impression about the instructor or the professor are also gained in the syllabus, and that's the handout that I gave you about cold language versus warm language. And I, according to my syllabus, currently am an ice queen. Like, when I read through this, I was like, great. You know, they talk about office hours versus student hours. Student hours mean that that's the time for you. This is your time, rather than this is my office, and if you dare, come by and I will definitely help you. So go to the next one. I really like this. This is one page out of the article, but I think it's an important piece to consider when we're creating our syllabus, and just how we can change them a little bit. So a well-developed syllabus should have a sound framework for the course, right? What are we expecting? What are the game rules? Because everybody has something a little different that they're requiring. Hence the liberal arts education. You learn to deal with a variety of people in a variety of situations and become successful across the board. A sense of security to the students via clear expectations. I think, now, I've talked to people on the faculty wing about this. I like having all of the information on the syllabus at the very beginning. I've talked to other faculty who say, I think it's overwhelming, and the students freak out at the beginning of the semester. So, I don't know, what's your perception of this? Do you have just-in-time syllabi? Have you heard of these? Where you have sort of the skeletal syllabus, and then before something is due, you give them a just-in-time syllabus, which is a smaller version of the syllabus explaining that project, the expectations of that project, and then a week before the next one, you give them another just-in-time syllabus. Have you heard of this concept? I'll tell you, I took an online class and they gave me a just-in-time syllabus, and I was very thrown. I'm like, why didn't I know this at the beginning? I would have planned and timed better. So I did not appreciate them as they're supposed to be.
I don't like to go into too many details. I like to leave the syllabus. You know, I like to have the course outline, like here are our talking points for each week so that they know what they're expected to get out of reading, especially in teaching a creative writing class, because so many students don't know how to read as a writer as opposed to reading as a student. And that's been something that's I need to be more explicit about in the future, but I do like them to have the schedule. And I do put in there that, you know, the schedule may change, like if we have a snow day, you know, I may bump a week back, and I'll let you know when that happens. But the other thing that I think is really important to let them have access to that I didn't do previously and have started doing this semester is all the assignments are available to them online from the first day the class opens. Like, so they know what their final paper is the first day, they can look at it. And that way I can refer to those papers, those midterms, those finals, you know, in your final, I'm going to expect you to be able to demonstrate this skill that we're talking about right now in this class, so that they can put a star down in their notes when they're taking it. So that way they're aware of it. Now, whether or not they all actually go ahead and read them before, the day it's due is another thing altogether. I can't tell you how many things were missed in the midterm that were like in bold font on the assignment sheet, but I think having it available and being able to refer to it throughout the semester is really helpful, especially for the students who have never taken that class, because in addition to first generation students, we have a lot of students coming back after they've had work experience, and they're like, papers? What are papers? You know what I mean?
Right.
Give me a test.
Right, yes. Papers, that's just a series of quotes that I read in the article,
Mhm.
correct?
Copied and pasted and not cited.
Exactly, right. So yes, we want to make sure that we have the game rules, and I agree that the calendar is a very important piece. If we can consider first generation students, or all freshmen really, coming in, if we can give them this much information on the syllabus, and then maybe sophomore year this much, and junior year, and then senior year, because they should know how to navigate a little bit better. So we don't have to be as explicit in the upper level courses, because we're trying to let them figure it out on their own as time goes on. But especially for the 100 and 200 level courses, I think the more information we can give to them in a variety of ways, the better they will do, right? So we want to give them a sense of security. Also, we want to increase the likelihood of student success, making sure that the confusion is minimized. All of my syllabi have red on them right now, red letters. That's when I get an assignment back, or I teach something and I look at and I realize that they missed, I did not communicate very well. I'll go back to my syllabus and I'll add in, explain this better next time, or don't use this example, or I take these notes in there for next year. And so it's constantly changing. Every semester it changes a little bit and it improves. So I want to make sure that we're minimizing the confusion, basically. And I think what I personally have missed is eliciting a sense of wonder and excitement about what they will learn. I have course goals, right? Well, it just seems like course chores when they read it, right? Rather than, when you get out of here, you are going to be able to do all of these amazing things. It's like, when you're done, you'll be able to do this, mine personally have to change. So I want to consider the look of the syllabus. So, if you can pull up, we currently, double click. Most of us have a text-based syllabus. So this is a little small. I'm going to increase the font size. Oops. Most of our syllabi tend to look like this, right? Where we have our office hours and our email and the course overview and the obligations. And is that how most people's syllabi tends to look? And what they're saying is students might appreciate a syllabus that has a little bit of a different layout. Some of the complaints that I've heard on the faculty wing are, these students, everything's basically very visual. They have their face in a screen, or they're looking at a screen, or they've been bombarded with information from the time they were born till now, with information that sort of comes at them. We probably in this room tend to understand something a little better when it looks like this, right? Where we can follow along and read it and make a comparison in a textual base. Well, students, pros and cons, right? But if we can break it out so that they can gather the information a little differently, we might have some more success of them reading it. Go ahead and X out of that and go to the next one.
So it seems like that with the visual syllabus, or the more visually stimulating syllabus, is that essentially you're working with the principles that you would have in magazine layout or newspaper layout, because it controls the focus and it controls the gaze of the reader. And by, I think, using the things off to the side, by breaking them up, it makes them more manageable, in the same way that if they're reading an article online, instead of being 1,000 words like it is in the New York Times, on the New York Times Online, it's 300 words. It's more digestible, it gets to the points, but it gets to them a lot quicker because the attention span, and I don't want to make a horrible generalization, but the attention span seems to be shorter. And so I think that applying those principles makes sense, and I don't know why we haven't thought of it sooner.
Right, yeah. If I am taking a course and somebody hands me a syllabus that looks like this, and I'm taking another course and their syllabus looks like this, which one am I more excited about, right? Definitely. Which one looks like somebody put forth a little bit more effort and is going to be a little bit more enjoyable to sit in on? So this one, I mean, if you could scroll down, you know, they have the course objectives, and I like the visual, right? Sample projects, you can keep going. So they have their grading all in one section, so if you want to know what your grades are going to be, there it is. Participation and attendance. And then they have their calendar at the end. So if you want to go to the third one, X out of that. The third one is my favorite. I just think it's the most appealing, the way it's laid out, right? So, you know, you look at this and then you start reading, oh, so this is a woman from the Great Depression. Well, maybe now I'll be a little bit more interested in reading that piece or whatever we're doing in this class. So go ahead and scroll down. So, go ahead, stop. So what's in this syllabus? So they even tell you where to find everything you're looking for. If you want to do it this way, course details, they have their website, the required texts, all of this separate. So it's not line by line that they have to weed through to find the information. Go ahead, Alina. And go ahead, stop right there. So this was interesting to me. I'm not sure if I would use it, but they have how to take this course. It's not what you get in this course, it's how deep you go. People take a U.S. history survey for lots of reasons, usually variations on it's required. Think about why someone has decided that learning this material might be essential to your college experience and what it means to you personally. It's entirely possible to do well in the class without being transformed by your newfound historical knowledge, but it would be a darn shame. I'd like to think that this, and indeed any course, operates on 3 levels. Imagine we're standing at the seashore, the course is the ocean, enter with me and go as deep as you dare. So you can wade through the course, you can snorkel, or you can scuba dive. So for something like this, a general ed requirement, that you can tell the people, listen, you can still pass, but what a shame, because if you do this, you're gonna learn so much information. So I had never seen anything like this on a syllabus, and I found it interesting. What do you guys think?
I love it. That's nice.
Right?
Yeah. The kids will say, scuba diving an A now. This would be an A. And I
Right,
think
right.
that's
So
an
they'll see
interesting way
A,
to put
B,
it.
C, right? That's
Right.
what they'll see.
Right.
But they'll also, I mean, it says it in a way, it's
Right.
entirely possible to do well in this class without being transformed. But what a shame if you don't
Yeah,
go
it's
with
nice.
me. Like, come with me. This language.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think another thing that's really appealing about it is just the use of language. Like, so often it's about delivering information that we don't think about how or why we're delivering that information. We're just kind of black and white on the page, and I think that this really appeals to working in a vernacular that's comfortable for students, you know, without being slang or you know, kitschy or whatever you want to call it. It does it in a way that's still effective and still more digestible than, say, reading, you know, Kant or something like that.
Right, exactly. So Lena, can you scroll? I think this one of them has, maybe it was the last one. Keep going. No, it's not this one. Go ahead, keep going. And so they have this, wait. So they have the agenda right here. I think the one before this had the grading scale, and then they had a simple pie chart right next to it. And I thought, why am I not doing that? So they can see 55% of my grade is exams, okay. And 20% of my grade is this or that, you know, just something as simple as a pie chart to give them the visual so it's not, and I think my syllabi is pretty, you know, I do a pretty good job, but once I see something like this, I think, I
Ours are books, all of ours in the ed department are like books. They
Right.
give so much information.
And the students flip, 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 and they say, it's the course agenda, and everything else is gone,
And
right?
I mean, I can truthfully say at the end of maybe once a week, I go to the syllabi. Let's look at this, let's look at that, you know, so I mean,
Right.
I make them look at it, but nothing like this, and I think I'm a nice cleaned.
I know, I was thinking, I think I'm okay with my syllabi, and then I start reading and I think, I guess I do sound really harsh.
Yeah.
And I want to be firm, and I want them to know that there are rules with, but I don't want to give them a bleeding ulcer.
And I mean, I've been here a long time, and we used to have Mount Aloysius College at the syllabus at the top, you know, and I tend to still do that because that's what we had to do.
Yep, and it's sort of a wasted area, right? That whole first page. I read this article where they interviewed, or they gave a survey to faculty and to students about what is important on the syllabus. And it was a 0 to 5 scale. And the faculty, most things were like 2 or 3, and the students were like 4, 5, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 4, 5, everything. They wanted everything on the syllabus. They wanted examples. They wanted, you know, the faculty, when they asked about specific examples for what they were looking, the faculty gave it like a 2.3 and the students gave it a solid 5. Everybody wanted that information. And so when we consider it from our angle, what we think is important to put on there and what they consider as important to put on there, really they want, according to the research that I found, now again, it's different in the faculty wing, I think students want more information, but in a way that's easier to digest. Okay, so if you scroll down, Alina, this is a warm classroom climate, and so they have, wait, oh, good, oh, good. So some positive or friendly language, a rationale for assignments, letting them know why this assignment is important. I don't generally put that in my syllabus, but I do tell them at the beginning of class, the reason we're doing this is because, and I give an explanation, but there's no reason that I can't put that in the syllabus just in case they're absent that day or they weren't, you know, fully paying attention. Self-disclosure, you know, they're saying to go ahead and share some personal experiences. And one article was all about saying the changing, if you need help, do this. Changing that to, we've all needed a little help at some point in our lives on different things. To put yourself into it, to say, we've all done, me too. I needed help too at one point. And that the research was, they had the exact same syllabi, right? Except they changed a couple phrases here and there. And then they gave them out to students to say, would you take this course and what do you think of the teacher? And they found that students turn the course down based on what they read, and they're almost identical, minus a couple phrases. Some, like, we've all needed a little help at some point in our lives, and so if you do need some, please don't be afraid to come to me, because I too have gone out looking for help when I've needed it. Rather than, if you need help, come to my office hours. You know, come to my student hours. This is for you, right? Small changes. Putting some humor into the syllabus. I haven't wasted any time on that myself, putting humor into my syllabus. But I think it's time, right? Why not put a little cartoon or something in there? I mean, can you scroll a little more? Showing some compassion. I have in my syllabus, this class, coming to class is mandatory. I do not, like an interpreting job, you only get paid when you show up. This is a time for you to get used to this, and if you don't come to class, you're not going to earn points for that day. Which isn't very compassionate, considering all that these students are bringing to the table when they come here with the families where they've come from. So showing some compassion about how it's important to come to class, and we know that life gets in the way at times, and this is what we can do to sort of get through those times. Showing some enthusiasm in the syllabus, and that's tricky, but to show that you love teaching this topic, why you're here, why you have taken on this job to work with them. Yeah. So those are 6 points. If you get out of that, go to the next one. And then here's some more, just some general hints. Instead of be on time and remain for the entire period or do not come at all, I'm changing this to please plan to arrive a few minutes early and remain until class is dismissed to help avoid disrupting class discussions or classmates' concentration. This course will facilitate the student's adjustment to the high expectations, demanding workload, increased academic liberties, and other aspects of the transition to college life. This course will ensure that you're at the very beginning of your university experience, you will know how to plan for a successful, et cetera, et cetera. Just making it about them, right? We will take 5 quizzes over the course of the semester. Alina, if you could scroll a little bit. Changing that to the quizzes you take over the course of the semester are intended to help you determine which topics you will need to study in more detail, right? Instead of, you have 5 quizzes. These quizzes are designed to make sure that you know what is important in this. So making these minor changes can really change how successful these first generation, especially these first generation students are when they come to college. So if you can get out of that, then go to the next slide. So everybody's talking about student-centered learning or student-centered teaching, and I think it really ties in with all this, making sure that the students are what we are working with. I've always said, I have 4 kids, and I always pick the teachers who love teaching kids, and I have been able to weed through the elementary school to the teachers who love teaching content and teachers who love teaching kids. And to me, I don't really care about content at that age. I want a teacher who loves kids and wants to work with my kids. I don't want a teacher who loves teaching US history in the 5th grade and has all these fancy things but doesn't necessarily know how to work with the kids, right? So I'm wondering why I don't apply that more here. So this is all of these revelations as I'm preparing this presentation. So student-centered teaching and learning purposefully selects the course objectives, focuses on learning rather than teaching, identifies roles of students and teacher, considers what students need to successfully learn, and then we can go back to what they have come with. So what their needs are, not just what they need to do to get through that class and have that material, but how we can do that for them. And is active, collaborative, cooperative, and problem-based learning. So all these considerations. And there's some really helpful websites, and of course this is available to everyone, but if you go to MIT OpenCourseWare, so they have all of their courses online here at MIT, and if you just pick one, Alina. Okay, so go ahead and view the course, and then you can go to their syllabus, all right? So they have their syllabus, and their calendar, and their readings, and their exams, and so a lot like Blackboard, right? But if we are feeling like we want to see what other people are doing, how they're creating these, there's a world of opportunity online of people who are sharing this sort of information. So you can get out of that. And go to the next one. Yeah. And that's it. Any questions or comments, or do you want to see my ice cold syllabus? Yes.
Oh, just quickly, earlier you mentioned, some of the attributes. One of them is that students are optimistic.
Yeah.
I wonder if faculty members can take some of that optimism of, yeah, I got a C, I'm okay with that, as maybe not caring.
Yes, of course. That's exactly how I took it when I first got here. Like, why do you care? Seriously, you got a C. And they're like, like, why aren't you crying? I saw it as they didn't get it or they didn't understand, but they did get it. And they're just feeling like, well, you know what, I passed, and I'm gonna do better next time, and I learned something on this, and I'm gonna move on.
I'm always surprised at how many of my students, when I ask them, what is your goal in here? To get a C.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's like such a foreign concept to me. I
Yeah.
said, let's shoot
Or-
for A's.
Or to pass. And I'm like,
I
what do
need
you
to
mean to
go.
pass?
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So when I went to college, and my dad, who had his own paving and excavation company, did not go to college, right? So I still remember we were at the father-daughter dance at the beginning of the year at Mercyhurst College, and we're dancing, and he looked at me and he said, just pass. And I said, what? And he said, no, seriously, just pass. Nobody's gonna look at your GPA when you graduate. And my mother said the same thing. She said, he's right. They will look at your GPA on your first job. And after that, so if you can sort of, with your charm, get your first job, after that, they're just gonna look at your work experience and your degree. So don't worry about it. Have some fun. Don't stress yourself out. It's not really worth it. And so now I have a job where they see my, I'm not even gonna say what my GPA is for my undergrad, but now I have to show it every year, right? When I went up for tenure at Bloomsburg, I had to give them my transcripts, and I had a friend who was on the tenure committee, and after they met, I said, what did they say about my undergraduate GPA? And she said, I was embarrassed for you. I said, I had a really good time. And so I haven't quite forgotten how much fun college was for me and how successful I have become even with that, you know, even with getting through with C's, you know. I was optimistic, I suppose.